Thank you for joining me today, Jen. She's co-founder and CEO of HIO. Keen to hear a little bit more about you and how HIO came to be.
So yeah, the journey of how HIO came to be this is almost I would like to say this is my third or fourth career. But as backdrop, I started my career in technology, building custom software. And after grad school, I ended up at Capital One, and I was there for over 18 years. And what I realized in living the digital transformation in financial services, what brought me joy was the building of new things with new technologies and reimagining business units and business problems. And so I retired from there because there was a big corporate, you're not really building anything anymore. And a friend of mine came to me a couple of years ago, and he had some really cool applications of technology, and he said, hey, I'm trying to get into the multifamily industry. And so for me, I just was looking at where, like, am I really ready to jump back into the startup space? And so I looked at what was happening in real estate, and I just saw that it was so much like when I started in banking and financial services in 2000, right? Just the early stages, a lot of chaos, and with a lot of new technologies coming in, I just saw this opportunity as somebody who has been an operator, somebody who's redesigned and built new tools. How could I bring that expertise into the multifamily space? Just because I feel like, as all of us know who are passionate about the industry, it is just such an important part of people's lives and an important part of our economy. And so I just saw an opportunity for me to jump in. But the story of HIO itself is the typical startup thing, right? So we came in, we had technology, we were dealing a bit with IoT a couple of years ago, but as I was sitting with property managers, one of my co-founders is as a developer here, sitting in one of his properties and working with the property managers, just realizing the sense of overwhelm that the staff had, right? Just with the things that were turning over. And our original technology had a conversational interface where, so again, this was right when ChatGPT was coming out and people started to realize like, oh, wait, I can just talk to the technology. And it was in that moment where my product manager and I and my team were like, wait a second, like if this is about overwhelm and about all of this information, and just when you think about the constant turnover, people moving from property to property, and just the diversity and uniqueness of these buildings, we're like, wait a second, we can be on a mission to make every employee an expert. And so how do we give them the tools and give them access to information in a way that we can, because we're an AI, I hate to even say it, but we're an AI native technology platform, we can build it specifically to help employees be experts in the information around managing their properties. So that was about 2.5 years ago where we came up with that concept. We got our first client on board. She was an amazing design partner, about 22,000 units. We brought on some smaller players, and then just 2 weeks ago, at the same time I was at Blueprint, we launched with PeakMade as an enterprise, assistant for everyone in their company. And so there's over 800 employees and I think it's over 17,000 properties. And so just been having really great results and just very luckily we've kept it very, very simple. And so our onboarding is easy as well. So that's the journey I've been on. I've learned, and I will say, and when coming into this industry, it's just been really awesome. It's just so different. Being a female in tech and banking was not the easiest of jobs to be in.
No,
no. And so I know part of this is about talking about women in PropTech. But I will say, like when I first joined and started attending VAMA meetings here in Richmond and just meeting and building that network, it's been amazing on how supportive people have been to connect me with people and to educate me and to kind of help me like not make a lot of mistakes that they're like, oh my gosh, I saw this startup do this. Don't do that.
Do you still feel like there's steps to be made, bridges to kind of build in order to get women that visibility and a bit more kind of comfort and welcome within the industry?
I do think so, because I think the one thing that I've realized is we're all, I know that there's been some debate around, the all-female conferences and the special events for women, but I think just the reality is that all of us seek role models and comfort and we all need different things. All right. And so I'm a big advocate and supporter for anything that provides a space for somebody to feel comfortable to get and move themselves up in the industry. And I think it's important. Right. But I think the nature of the events at times, like if you think about like it's always in Vegas, right? Like there's only so many more events that I can go to that go into like 11 at midnight, right? Just like that does get a little bit old, right? And that's in the nature of being in as a technology company and kind of making those connections. That's, I'm a 50-something year old woman, right? And like, I don't think when I walk into a startup scene, like I'm just going to go in. I am who I am, right? I've always been a builder and I'm comfortable walking into that space. So, but for other women who have that dream or that aspiration, like how do you make sure there's space for them to feel like they also belong? Because again, that's something that I learned early in my career. I never thought that I really needed it, but then I found a bunch of women who were like, oh my gosh, Jem, thank God, like I saw you in there, and I knew that I could at least walk up to you and get your bearings, right? As you kind of are out there trying to.
And I think innately women do find a safe space in each other, and that's not anything that I think our male counterparts in the industry need to necessarily change, or something that they can change. I think we know great people in the multifamily space, but it's like you said, it's always nice, even if it's just on an office level, you need that one person to go for lunch with and common ground. It just takes one, right?
It takes one, and then to connect you to somebody else, so that then you have more people, right? A lot of times it's the first or second time you walk into the room, right? And it's how do we as women support each other, of just like bringing like up that first woman into the room and connecting them with more people so that they feel like they belong. And I will say that's what I've seen that is in the industry, right? There's a lot of women who have moved up in this industry and are now in leadership positions, right? Like that's amazing, right? And it's a lot of the women who, having been operators, understanding how the business actually works. And this is actually a parallel that I saw in banking as well. Like you're going to have some people that are indexing and really, really focused on the spreadsheets and the numbers, right? Yes. And that is natural. Like that's, in banking and asset management, yes, you're going to have to look at those spreadsheets. But the reality is the business is with the human beings, right? And like, I will say there was one time that I was kind of shocked. I was at a conference and I heard an asset manager talking, and he started talking about the property management was the necessary evil in the industry. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm like, I ran teams of call centers and bankers. I'm like, they're like the lifeblood. Like when somebody wants to talk to somebody about their money, let alone about their home, right? This is the parallels in the industry. I'm like, of course you have to have humans. And that's actually that my company HIO actually stands for humans in the loop, right? Because we believe our whole platform is about supporting the internal experts and the employees to keep them in the loop, because there's fewer and fewer of them that have to know more and more. And that's going to be the reality. And so you've got to embrace that, and you've got to embrace the people and support the people. And so, I just think there is an element of, I know we wanted to talk a little bit about, more women in the PropTech space. What I would say is, because of the leadership and the involvement of a lot of women in the industry, they really know where the problems are that need to be fixed, right? They have I've been there, I had this problem, I should be solving this for myself, right? And that's where that's where women thinking about how they might dip their toe into the PropTech space, or how to do that, because that is the problem that needs to be solved, right? And I think that's where my coming into the industry is. I've been the person running front lines with constant turnover and people needing information. I built tools like this when I was at Capital One. And so how do I make it easy for non-technical people? And so I feel like that, there are a lot of people that will come in from outside of the industry, or even inside the industry, but more typically outside, being like, oh, I see this problem, I can go and solve it. But they have never been on the front line leading the people doing the work, and they don't understand the processes and the systems of the organization. And so I think that's where women in leadership right now, in general multifamily, have a huge opportunity to be thinking about, like, how might they be working with, or think about their own types of journey with technology, because that's where it is a lot easier to do now than it has.
Yeah, and I would say we run a lot of parallels with that in our hiring processes as well. So particularly account managers, customer success. Again, every role, every function is different. But even in PropTech, we have mandates from clients saying that we're not going to hire anybody into this role unless they've been a property manager, community manager, leasing manager in the past.
Very true. And I think that's where I've been impressed, a lot of men just really listening to and understanding what women's experiences are like.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's everybody uses the word empathy, but right, like part of it, I do this with, women and men that I've worked with, right, on all sides, really just empathizing, where are they coming from and what types of experiences have they had? And, my guys join me for meetings all the time, and they're sometimes shocked that even for me, as I've gone out to raise money or kind of doing any type of pitch, by being a female, how different I'm treated than when my co-founder might do a pitch.
Hopefully we can keep flying the flag for women in industry, get more of them over here, and hopefully bridge that gap as time continues.